From her previous words, the city of which the Zern spoke was indeed Kalincha. Of course, it was closer to west-southwest than the southwest, and she wondered if traveling there would really take 5 days, but everything else was within the margins of error. However, there was one thing she did not understand. Why were they telling Neia about this? However, before Neia could contemplate the reasons for that, Caspian said something shocking. That is why we have decided to ally with them to fight against Jeldabaoth, Miss Baraja. Neia could not help but doubt her ears. Could they trust a species like the Zern, monsters who did not even have facial features to read? Well, we were forced to bow to Jeldabaoth's power and invaded this place as part of his army. We received news that our king, who was being held hostage in the Abelian Hills, was killed by demons. As for the other one, the prince, who's being held prisoner as a symbol of our submission. Now that the previous king has been killed, he is our new king. If you rescue him, we will help you. Did they kill him because they did not need 2 hostages? Or was there more fiendish reason for the killing? Well, she could not read that deeply into matters. It would seem the important thing was that their king had been killed. That said, we are preparing to take our new king somewhere that Jeldabaoth cannot reach, so our most elite royal guard will not be able to help you. However, the remaining 3,000 or so of our warriors that Jeldabaoth brought along will fight by your side. Our species will not die out as long as there is a king and a single female, so you may use those warriors as you wish. There will be no problems even if they are all killed. That's how it is. You also know the conditions I've laid out in order to triumph against Jeldabaoth. Rather than decreasing the Demihuman's numbers with combat, we will take fewer losses if we persuade them to leave his side. Also, they have provided us with important information, and we have finished verifying it. Caspian smiled, and then continued. From what we know, this news is not a trap set by Jeldabaoth. On the contrary, this is something we can use to deal with the Zern. If Jeldabaoth finds out, they will be purged, and their prince, the new king, will also be killed. That's what will happen to you if you betray us, Caspian was threatening the Zern. Although it was only natural for anyone in a high position to think like that, the fact that Caspian could ruthlessly describe such a development frightened Neia a little. However, once the calm returned to Neia's heart, a question boiled up inside her. Namely, why had he brought her here to listen to their planning? If he wanted Neia to take part in the rescue, all he would have to do was give her an order. It was true that Neia was now unit commander, but ultimately she was just a squire who was somewhat skilled with the bow. There was no need to explain the operation to her in such detail. And not just that. Don't tell me that they still regard me as His Majesty's squire. I mean, I'm halfway to being a citizen of the Sorcerer's Kingdom already, right? They probably mean that the Sorcerer King would also be listening to this under normal circumstances. Or maybe they want me to explain this to the Sorcerer King when we see him again, is that it? Indeed. Neia was still the Sorcerer King's squire. Neia puffed up her chest, and Caspian was slightly surprised at the sudden change in her attitude. Now then. With regards to rescuing the Zern Prince, we have reached a decision that rescuing him during the chaos of attacking Kalincha will be very difficult. Indeed, the Zern followed up on Caspian's words. Let me tell you where the prince is being held. Vice Captain, I hope you will help clarify details for me. The Zern launched into an explanation with Gustav as backup. First of all, the great city of Kalincha occupied the top of a hill. It was under the direct administration of the royal family and was protected by thick walls. On its west, near its highest point, was Castle Kalincha. It was intended to hold the Demihumans at bay, should the fortress line be breached, and at the same time it was near a major trade route leading to the south. Therefore, it was more sturdily built than any other city in the Holy Kingdom. In addition, Kalincha's seldom-used castle was very solidly built in order to withstand sieges. The imprisoned Zern Prince was held within one of the towers of the castle. Since he was in the innermost of the towers that were intended for last-ditch defenses, one could say it was the hardest place in Kalincha to infiltrate. It did not even have windows, in order to protect against aerial attack, and one could not reach it without traveling down an aerial walkway. This tower was now inhabited by a powerful guardian, a member of the water-using Ogrican known as Vaughns. The Zerns were not allowed to go near it, lest something happened to their prince if they did. However, provided their treachery was not exposed, if the guards saw humans who were not related to the Zerns, they would not harm the prince. In fact, they would protect the prince instead. That was what they meant by borrowing the strength of humans. But once the actual fighting begins, if the prince is still imprisoned, we will have no choice but to kill you humans. Since all our fellows who were brought to this land are present. The Zern's words started to lose coherence, but everyone understood their meaning. It would be too late by then. There was value in rescuing the prince because the Zerns were enemies of mankind. If the Zern were all wiped out, then there would be no need to rescue the prince. It'll be too late to send reinforcements once the fighting begins. Therefore, The safest and most effective way to rescue the prince is to send a group of elite warriors who will move as stealthily as possible. Squire Neia, I would like you to command this operation. I cannot. It is impossible for me. Neia responded to Caspian immediately. Normally, gainsaying the prince who was her supreme commander would not be tolerated, both in terms of military discipline and social conventions. But at the same time, that order was truly ridiculous. It was simply too much, no matter how you looked at it. I knew you would say that. However, Miss Baraja, this matter is of great benefit to you as well. Caspian narrowed his eyes. They will furnish us with knowledge about the hills and introduce reliable guides there. Neia gulped. She bit her lip, desperately trying to keep a lid on her emotions. How much trust can we place in those words? Once you rescue the prince, the Zerns will respond by rising up in revolt from the inside, at which point retaking Kalinsha will be much simpler. It's certainly better than a conventional siege, and we will be able to take more Demihumans prisoner. The Zerns also say that they will ask around to see which prisoners have the knowledge you desire. I'm not too sure about the details, the Zern added on to Caspian's words. It seems you wish to travel to the Abelian Hills. If you rescue our prince, unharmed, our entire species will be indebted to you. Who would refuse to share what they know with a benefactor? In addition, that knowledge is nothing special. The Zern's argument was utterly irrefutable. Refusing them would mean being disloyal to His Majesty. If I let a chance to be useful to His Majesty slip out of my hands because I'm afraid. After calmly considering the matter, she felt that this was her best chance. However, she did not intend to kill herself. Who else will be going on the mission to rescue the prince? Neia looked at Remedios, who had been silent all this time. I'm not going. I can't infiltrate or anything. If you say that, then what about me? Neia thought, and then she looked silently to Caspian. I asked her to go with you several times, but she kept refusing. Therefore, you will be accompanied by that captive. No, that collaborator. Captive will do. Captain. It doesn't matter. Vice Captain Montaigne, can you bring her over? Montaigne left the room with a yes. The Zern envoy left the room as well. It would seem they did not want to let others know that they were working with the humans. Gustav returned before long, but he was not alone. He had with him a girl, wrapped in layer upon layer of chains, a girl that Neia had never seen before. She seemed more petite, delicate and younger than Neia. She wore a scarf that blended the colors of dark green and sand yellow in a complex pattern, as well as a strange maid's outfit. Her facial features were exquisite, and even the patch that covered one of her eyes did not diminish her beauty. Neia suddenly remembered what Evil Eye had said, and while she was quite sure who this person was, she decided to ask just in case. My prince, who is this? Haven't you already guessed? She's one of the Maid demons who showed up in this city. Neia went stiff. She had thought as much, but it still startled her. She was difficulty rating 150. In other words, she was a monster among monsters. A being which humanity could not overcome now stood before her eyes. However, Neia also sensed something else that startled her. That was the fact that she could still feel such intense hatred with an unbeatable monster in front of her. How could she hold on to such emotions when facing a creature that outclassed her so tremendously? Was it because this Maid demon was not radiating an aura of fear, or was it because of her loyalty to the Sorcerer King? Regardless of which it was, Neia sank her hatred for the Maid demon into the depths of her heart and did not let it show. If she was careless, she would start berating her as one of the reasons why such an outstanding monarch like the Sorcerer King lost to Jeldabaoth. However, while Remedios had her hand on the hilt of her holy sword, Caspian and Gustav did not seem to be doing anything special on their part. Therefore, Neia could conclude that she did not pose any immediate danger. Otherwise, they would never allow her to stay in the same room as the prince. Murder girl. Do not be afraid. Right now I am not sworn to Jeldabaoth, but to Ain Sama. I will not attack. I don't believe you. Ain Sama. That term of address filled Nia's heart with displeasure, as if she was trying to reject the fact that it had been said. However, the Maid demon replied to her in a monotone. You do not have to believe me. It is simply the truth. Miss Baraja. It seems that His Majesty somehow managed to usurp control over her from Jeldabaoth during the battle. Nia's eyes went as white as saucers. Had he actually managed to carry out a non-lethal tactic like taking control of her while fighting multiple opponents, Jeldabaoth and the Maid demons? Neia did not know much about magic, and she did not know how difficult such a feat was. If one needed an example, it would be like trying to snatch equipment off a very powerful opponent during the middle of combat. If that was the case, then it must have been an incredibly difficult maneuver which only the Sorcerer King could pull off. Neia came to respect the Sorcerer King more and more. However, she had two questions now. She wanted to believe that if the Sorcerer King had done it, then everything would be fine, and she could accept that fact. But was the maid really under the Sorcerer King's control? That was the first question. Could it be that she was not actually working for the Sorcerer King, but acting under Jaldabaoth's orders to pretend that she was under his control? And then, the other question was, I understand that you're loyal to the Sorcerer King, but why are you here? Is it because of your chains? It's not like that. The maid demon began to exert her strength, and the thick chains emitted a distasteful creaking sound. Stop that. As Remedio shouted in time with a wave of culling intent, the sound stopped. Even I could break ordinary unenchanted chains. Then why? Why haven't you left this place and gone to His Majesty's side? She had asked because she was hoping that demonic instincts or the abilities of a bound demon would lead her to the Sorcerer King. The maid demon flatly replied. Because it's an order. The last order I received from him was to help you. So, I will do my best as long as it does not mean my death. Neia was stunned.